What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the NFC South Roundtable. We really hope that you guys enjoyed our first edition live stream. If you guys missed it, go ahead and check out the recap and check us live next Tuesday for our second edition. But today we got a fun one, and we are going to be debating the best quarterbacks in order from each of your content creators in the NFC South. This video is, of course, brought to you by BetUS. We'll talk about them a little bit later on and how you can get a 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. But let's just immediately jump into this. Clay, let's start with your list on how you view these NFC South quarterbacks. Let's pull them up. You want to go and break that down for us, Clay?
Yeah, no problem. So Kirk Cousins, obviously, I got him at 1. He's just been consistently successful in this league. He hasn't dipped over an 80.0 grade as a PFF over the past 6 seasons. But, injuries, obviously, he's coming off an Achilles injury. That's obviously not a very easy, but I still think with the weapons he has around him there, I've got Kirk Cousins at number 1. I still think that, Kirk Cousins is going to, lead this Falcons to the division. I mean, I hate to say that as a Panthers fan, it does do me no justice whatsoever. But Baker Mayfield at 2. Last year he had finished strong, had over 4,000 yards, earned him a 3-year extension, won a playoff game, beat the Eagles. He really excelled in those final 4 games last year, right? Top 10 passer grade. The biggest performance I think he had was in week 15 last year. So I got Baker at 2. Derek Carr. Again, this is a guy that just is steady, right? He hasn't really won the big game yet. That's the thing that I've been waiting for him to do. Passing grade consistently has been around like 77.5, 83.5 over the past 5 seasons through 25 touchdowns, 8 interceptions last year. But his performance remains a mix of potential missed opportunities, the way I look at it. Bryce Young, rookie season was rough, 52.6 passer grade, lowest grade under pressure. The transition to the NFL has been difficult for him. Better decision-making, new head coach in Dave Canales, who can bring that confidence, improve his footwork, deep ball accuracy, getting that ball out quicker with that 2.7 seconds. It's all about growth for Bryce Young at this point this year.
Love it. And I hate to be a spoiler, but really, we have the same rankings for each and every single one of your creators here at the NFC South. So like I said during the live stream, you are not going to find a division anywhere else here on Roundtable Sports that agrees or gets along as well as the NFC South Roundtable does. It's like you guys have been family for years or something like that. But Timothy, let's go ahead and bring you in. There's a connection. There's already a connection. Timothy, let's go ahead and bring up your rankings here for the NFC South. I would hate to say that, it's any different, but it's the exact same. So why don't you break this down for us?
All right. So when I was doing this ranking, I can make an argument for like any one of these quarterbacks to be at number 1, to be honest. I mean, Kirk Cousins is just here because, he's been playing at a higher level, but he hasn't won anything. He struggles in prime time. I can't stress that enough. He can always put up some big numbers. He'll give you the 350 yard games with 3 touchdowns, and then he'll stink it up next week, 150 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. So, but all in all, I just think that he plays at a higher level. At number 2, you got Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield, honestly, could be number 1. He's won more playoff games than Derek Carr. He's won more playoff games than Kirk Cousins. And, so at the end of the day, I would have to go, with Baker Mayfield number 2. He's a gamer. I do think he's going to fall back down to earth. I think offensive coordinators matter. I think that's the issue we're having with Jalen Hurts, with Shane Steichen, and I think it's going to happen the same way with Baker Mayfield and Dave Canales. But as of right now, I have him at number 2. Number 3, Derek Carr. Derek Carr, to me, is a lemon. But he is my quarterback. I got to ride with him. I linked a lot of the stats that Clay yelled out, and said that, I mean, pretty much dinking and dunking, like garbage yards that don't really mean anything. But he is a guy that can win you some games. You're not going to win every game because of him, but he can keep you in the game and make a throw late, to make his stats look like they should be respected. And then you got number 4, you got Bryce Young. A lot of growing pains, a lot of the things that happened to me weren't his fault. I think that Carolina really failed him in his first season. I do think that, you'll see a little bit more promise, but at the end of the day, I still think he's going to struggle.
Yeah, for sure. And before we get into the final two breakdowns from your creators here on the NFC South, we have to give a shout out to the sponsors of this video, and not just this video, but the channel all football season long over at BetUS. Link in the description box below, pinned in the comment section below too. Click on that link and you guys can get an exclusive offer you're not going to find anywhere else. And that is a 125% sign up bonus up to $2,000 on not just your first deposit, but on your first 3 deposits. For those who don't necessarily know how a 125% sign up bonus works, let's say you put in $100. That turns into $225 for you to play with, and you get that on your first 3 deposits. Again, a deal you're not going to find anywhere else. Not just that, but with BetUS, you'll also get a 200% crypto deposit bonus. They also have the fastest and the easiest deposit and withdrawal process out there. 24/7 personalized service, 365 days a year, live wagering on all major games. They have the best betting variety in the business. You can also get a 10% back on your net losses up to 2 times per year. Also, did you guys know that BetUS can give you your very own personalized account manager? Again, sign up for BetUS, support the channel, support the creators of this channel by signing up for BetUS. And right now, you can even see some of the odds on the screen right now via BetUS. You guys can look right here for Baker Mayfield. Right now, his over is 3,600 passing yards. You can get that at -115, or you can do the under of 3,600 passing yards also at -115.
Yeah, no, I think that it's an interesting gamble there. I would take the over personally. I think that Baker can do that. I think that he obviously showcased that he can do it last year. He showcased that he can do that multiple times in his career. And I would feel comfortable taking that.
For sure, for sure. Let's get on to the next quarterback. We got Bryce Young for the Panthers. Now, his is a little bit lower, understandably so. Over of 3,200 passing yards. They're also odds at -115, or you can take the under on passing yards at -115 too for, again, 3,200 passing yards. Clay, what do you think? I mean, you're putting your money on the line here. What are you taking? You taking the over and you taking the under?
I'm going to take the over this year. I think that Bryce is going to his second season. I think the promising improvements that we've seen so far in training camp is going to transition. I don't think it's going to be like this whole catastrophic of, throwing for 4,500 yards like a CJ Stroud rookie season like last year. I don't think it's going to be to that influx, but you got a lot of new talent. The coaching changes, I think, should help. It might not be able to leapfrog them to, be the number one in this division. But I think that as of right now, unfortunately, the Carolina Panthers are stuck in mediocrity, and they are going to be mediocre until proven otherwise. But I do think that there is going to be a lot of progress and improvement. And I think that's all we want to see in the Carolina Panthers this year.
Yeah, moving on here to you, Timothy, and of course, your Saints. Derek Carr has a very, very specific number here. The over for him is 3,375 yards, and the under is under 3,375 yards, both at -115. Your money's on the line. What are you picking?
I'm taking the over. I think that he's going to throw for 4,000 yards this season.
Wow.
I do. I think he's going to throw for 4,000 yards and at least 30 touchdowns. Because that's how much confidence I have in Clint Kubiak as the new offensive coordinator. They have some playmakers in Rashid Shaheed. I mean, I don't know what the heck happened last season. He only was getting like 2 or 3 targets per game. That guy is explosive. And if you put the ball in his hands, some magical things are going to happen. And also giving Chris Olave the ball in space. And I know a lot of people think that he may be a little bit washed, but Alvin Kamara, to me, will be in consideration for Offensive Player of the Year if he stays healthy. That's how much respect I have for Clint Kubiak's offense. I'm taking over.
For sure. And then lastly here for the Falcons, we got Kirk Cousins, and his stats are a little bit high there. BetUS clearly thinks that Kirk Cousins, he is about to go off. His over-under is 3,900 yards. What are you taking here? You taking the over? You taking the under? Because the Falcons, they got some firepower.
We have firepower. That's a fact, and I'm going on the over. But 3,900 yards just off the rip is low. This is a guy that before last year's injury was a consistent 4,000 or 4,500 yard passer in his own right. He comes to Atlanta now with a plethora of weapons. Sure, we don't have that household wide receiver name like a Justin Jefferson, but we do have Drake London. We do have Bijan Robinson. We do have Kyle Pitts. We do have Darnell Mooney. So those guys alone right there are going to be, the benefactors in this Falcons offense in 2024. And I see Kirk Cousins really throwing close to that 4,800 yard mark. Dare I say almost 5K. I think the Falcons are in line to do something special on offense with this guy. This is a productive man. It tastes wonderful. As a matter of fact, the red says it all. Brother, let me tell you, this is a guy that brings 115 touchdowns to the NFC South. No other quarterback in this division has been as productive as Kirk Cousins the last 4 years. So yes, Kirk Cousins, I feel, will throw close to 5K. I'll give him anywhere from 48 to 4,900 yards. Book it.
Love it, guys. Make sure you go ahead and check out BetUS. Get the 125% sign-up bonus with your exclusive offer.
Michael Vick at BetUS.com. Catch an incredible 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits, plus 10% gambler's insurance. BetUS, my online sportsbook and casino.
Alrighty, guys, let's get into these quarterback rankings and finish them off. Let's hop over to the Falcons. Berto, let's get into your list on what you're thinking about these quarterback rankings.
Ooh, like it says right there, Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield, Derek Carr, Bryce Young. Kirk Cousins, like for all the things mentioned, this is one of the most established quarterbacks in this division. He's been a playmaker in this league for quite some time, and he's the clear-cut number 1. Baker Mayfield, number 2. I'm real interested to see. I put him at number 2, but I'm real interested to see how the Cohen relationship with him works out. I know I'm with the Panthers guy. Excuse me, I forgot his name. Clay. I'm with Clay that, coordinators do make a difference. And I'm interested to see what Dave Canales' exit does for a guy like Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield really enjoyed a resurgence in his career under him. Then we have, I thought we traded Desmond Ridder to the Arizona Cardinals, but I guess he's here in the form of Derek Carr. Damn. Derek Carr is at number 3. And what can you say about Derek Carr, man? A guy that, just has always banged at that door for, for elite play, just really has never gotten a chance to kick that door open. I got Derek Carr at number 3. Sure, you guys have some good weapons around him, but can Derek Carr actually lead? That's the thing, and I don't see Derek Carr actually taking you guys to any prominence. And of course, we have
Cousins will. Okay.
100%. I mean, if you want to throw stats up, let's see what Derek Carr has done the last 4 years for the Houston Texans and where he came from, the Raiders and the Saints. It doesn't come close to what Kirk Cousins has done for the Viking and what he's going to do for the Atlanta Falcons. And lastly, we got Clay. And listen, I feel bad for Bryce, man. Really, like TJ had mentioned, I think the Panthers did him a disservice last year. But I am happy to say that, Dave Canales now going with the Panthers as the head coach. I'm interested how he can maximize his potential. The arm strength, sure, is there. But, we're not going to see a traditional drop pack. I would love to see the scheme and the rollouts that they put into him, because by stature, he's the shortest guy in the NFC South. So for other things mentioned, I put him at last, man.
For sure. And last but not least, we have the division winner coming on in to give his rankings. Mr. Bucks Nation, what are you thinking about these quarterbacks?
Come on.
We really are the most agreeable division.
You really are, guys. You're not giving me much to work with here, guys. No arguing.
It's hard.
I gave you an alley-oop. I called Derek Carr the new Desmond Ridder of the NFC South. That should have been
You guys are like a parent's dream. You all just get along.
everybody's everybody's in agreement with their team. Like it's at a point where everybody knows what. Like it's kind of hard to kick against it at this point.
Well,
Yeah,
and I agree. So to that point, I think one of the biggest reasons why our rankings are so similar is because really, like on paper right now, like this is what not just we all think as NFC South creators, but like really just a lot of people around the NFL think right now. Have Kirk Cousins. I have Kirk Cousins at number one, right? And I agree with Berto. Like what he did in terms of putting up numbers, in terms of the stats that he had with the Minnesota Vikings, like that's one of the biggest reasons you put Cousins at number one. If you have good pieces around Cousins, he's shown that he can produce. Who does he have now? He's got Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and Bijan Robinson. It's a pretty good trio of guys, right? Baker Mayfield coming in at number two. Obviously he got the big deal from the Bucs here, and he had, by all accounts, a career resurgence last year with the team. Now, one of the biggest losses this offseason was Dave Canales going to the Carolina Panthers as their new head coach. The Bucs' biggest priority this offseason, aside from their re-signings, was bringing in a guy who was familiar with Kirk Cousins. Enter former Kentucky head coach Liam Cohen, former offensive coordinator of the LA Rams. I'm just as curious as everybody else here in this roundtable. How is that relationship going to work out? Are we going to see more consistency with Mayfield? The most consistency we've seen from him in his NFL career, or will we see him regress a little bit? That's a big question. And I agree with my colleagues here. Like you could have said, based on how last year was for Mayfield, that you could have put him at number one. I went with Kirk just because of the long-term stability that Kirk has shown at the quarterback position. Derek Carr coming in at number three. TJ called him a lemon, I think was the exact term there. And I will say that, and it's tough, right? But Derek Carr feels like the most replaceable quarterback, or the easiest to replace, where you wouldn't be that surprised right now if come next offseason, if you find but listen, if you come next offseason, if there's a legitimate conversation of like, hey, Carr's going to be out and it's going to be Spencer Rattler versus somebody else for that starting quarterback job next season, would you really be super surprised? Like, I don't know. I don't know. So I feel like Carr has the lowest ceiling right now in terms of, or not the most momentum going for him right now, because at least Bryce Young is a former number one overall pick, right? Like Derek Carr feels like he's down pretty bad based on how last year was. But I do agree with TJ that a new offensive coordinator can do wonders for a quarterback. It's literally why Baker Mayfield had his career resurgence last year. But I do have Carr at 3 right now based on how he was last year, and he could have room to grow in this. Bryce Young, I have at 4. Again, last year was not a great year for Bryce Young, much like what Clay was saying. A lot of that was just due to quite literally having no one around Bryce Young. I mean, my goodness. It was not a great supporting cast. You've changed a lot of things over there in Carolina. You spent a crap ton of money on a couple of guards. You brought in a new head coach in Dave Canales, who's worked great wonders, not even with just Baker Mayfield, by the way. People forget that he was a big piece in Geno Smith's resurgence with the Seattle Seahawks. He's got a very impressive record. Russell Wilson goes from that system in Seattle off over to the Denver Broncos and failed miserably over there. So there's a lot of positive things for Bryce Young right now to say that he can improve in these rankings. Whenever we, come this time next year, whenever we're talking about this, we may have a vastly different set of rankings going forward. But I feel like, as a lot of my colleagues, we all put the same rankings, that right now, at least on paper, this is kind of the general consensus.
For sure. Guys, this is going to wrap up your rankings for the NFC South quarterbacks. I mean, I can't say that there was much diversity, but you know what? They weren't delusional. They were realistic. And at the end of the day, that's really the most that you can ask from a representative for your own team. But guys, that's going to wrap it up for today's video. Make sure that you guys subscribe on your way out to the NFC South Roundtable for all of your NFC South news. We will be live every single Tuesday, breaking things down and giving you a pre-recorded video, of course, every single week too. Make sure you guys follow all of these creators, links in the description box below. We appreciate you guys so much for watching. But most importantly, never forget, stay safe.